Welcome everyone. I'm Gary Morley, the Regional Director at Replicon for Asia Pacific, and I'm joined by my colleague Pawan Manjotra, a Senior Solutions Manager at Replicon. We're excited to host you all for today's webinar about breaking the professional services profitability myth. Just some housekeeping notes before we start. You will be on mute. Just before we go into housekeeping, the agenda for today's agenda will be as follows. We'll give you an update on the professional services industry trends. We will discuss the profitability myth that most professional service businesses today contend with. We'll then look at what best practices can be used to break this myth and uncover the true profitability. Then a quick story about a customer journey, which will be followed by a live demo and an open Q&A. So as I was about to mention, from a housekeeping standpoint, just a few notes before we start. You'll be on mute during the presentation and there will be a Q&A session at the end, as mentioned. But if you have any questions at any time during the webinar, please feel free to submit them in the question box and we'll make sure they get answered either live within today's session or follow up if we run out of time. Whoops, looks like sorry folks, my PowerPoint has just crashed. Let me just bring it back up. Shouldn't be too long, apologize for that. Okay, let's look at the latest research from SPI Research. They say service businesses are facing many challenges, and here is but a few. The overall revenue growth has been stalling, as seen in the global numbers of 10.2% in 2015 and down to 8% in 2017. There is increased pressure on margins due to the competition for talent that pushes salaries and therefore resource costs up. Also an increase in headcount to provide more new services as the market dictates. Globally, 7.8% in 2015 and up to 9.3% in 2017. And there is an increased pressure to reduce billing due to efficiency and innovation. What about the service businesses market competition? This has become more intense in recent years due to the growth in smaller firms that are offering boutique services, which is seen in the reduction of revenue from new clients and a decrease in bid-to-win ratio. There's also been a change in billing contracts as customers do not want to take on risk, and this is making contracts far more complex. Clients are moving from T&M, fixed bids and milestone approach to KPI-based contracts. On top of this, you also need to deal with the compliance challenges that have been created by new revenue recognition standards, as we see evolving and rolling out around the world. These are tougher times, so what should a services business do? Well, service businesses need to realise that employee time is money, and how they manage employee time has a resounding impact on their business profitability and other key metrics. For most service businesses, employee time costs anywhere between 60 to 80% of operating expenses and nearly 100% of revenues, obviously leaving a slim line for profitability within the business. If you look at a typical 500-person services-based business, it has more than 1 million hours at its disposal. For 50,000 employee organisation, that number is huge at over 100 million hours. But do service businesses know where these huge chunks of hours are going? Can they at any point in time tell what 1,000 hours got them in terms of, say, revenue? These are difficult but very important questions we must answer. Service businesses base all their key metrics like resource utilisation, service profitability, project margins, delivery, forecasts on a baseline provided by billable hours. In doing so, they do not They are not looking at a major chunk of hours that the employees are still paid for because these businesses do not have a system of record around employee time. A semblance of control and profitability perpetuates the organisational because the baseline is so much smaller, but things do not add up at a organisational level. Without a system of record, these metrics that professional service businesses are looking at are a myth. A 1,000-person business has 20 million hours plus and looks at a fraction of it to bill their clients. Not accounting for the entire pie means they are missing out on hidden revenue and profitability potential. Unaccounted hours are misclassified and don't make billings. You need visibility of the unaccounted hours, how to deal and what to do with it. You need a system of record to accurately capture, catalogue and contextualise time. Absolutely important. If you're not accounting for all your hours, you have a significant issue. This is the core of today's webinar, showing you how to bring visibility to time, account for it, and apply best practices that will allow you to grow and run a more profitable professional services business. Let's have a closer look at best practices to uncover true profitability and hidden revenues. For any business, if you can't measure something, you can't manage it. So to start managing profitability, service businesses need to account for 100% of their resource time and be able to add context to it. We will look at each of these in more detail. They should leave no stone unturned to aggressively streamline quote-to-cash workflow. They need to establish and adopt service benchmarks and use them in their day-to-day operations. And finally, they need to plan and replan while executing. Create custom productivity targets based on formulas. Set productivity targets at individual resource levels. Measure and drive productivity and utilisation at individual group or across company. And have dashboards for productivity and utilisation. Leverage your resources and time more accurately to deliver the right kind of services to maximise revenue and profitability for your business. Accounting for 100% of resource time with context. Service businesses should look for solutions that automatically harvest this information from their existing ecosystem, because having your resource participate in this is the biggest point of failure. Services businesses should look at professional service automation solutions that utilize technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and Internet of Things, and are truly global in nature for best results. The context associated with time brings visibility into what outcomes are being produced using the time, and this can be used to redirect time into outcomes that mean more or produce greater value. This is paramount and key for a business. What our customers mention is that it's better to stay away from custom-built apps and advantageous to adopt a global, scalable solution. Service businesses should look at streamlining the end-to-end workflow, starting right at the opportunity management through to invoicing. Having standardized processes around resource billing and time improves consistency and transparency. We see that a lot of exception handling of errors are handled by quick adjustments to billing information. This is a big no-no, and the business needs to go back to the source and fix them right there to make sure they don't happen again. Finally, while it seems easy to do things outside of your professional services solution over email or in Excel, but it's a dangerous behavior that has long-term effect and reduces transparency and auditability, so avoid it at all costs. Benchmarks are a must for services businesses. These need to be established for the entire organisation. The easiest way to start doing this is connecting all time to outcomes. It is necessary to establish KPIs that make sense of your business, usually around utilisation, profits, margins, work in progress, and others. You also need to measure these across teams and locations and continuously calibrate to see how everyone is doing, and use these benchmarks to drive collaboration in real time across your business, making it a well-oiled machine. Literally predict the future is where you need to be. You can do the next best thing by plan and replan when you see changes. Use history to inform your future, plan right from the opportunity stage, have clear estimates for all metrics, and use real-time information to bust the hidden bench and profitability myth. To do this, professional service businesses like yours need a new way to think about their service business and businesses. They need a PSA as a professional services automation solution with 100% of the resource time at its core. This is crucial. This core is what we call our time intelligence platform. It provides the baseline for all services businesses by connecting resource time to outcomes and supports the key professional services pillars. And they are: 1, service delivery, streamlining project delivery, resource allocation and utilization. 2, resource utilization, plan and manage billable targets at resource level and enhance resource utilization. 3, project accounting, drive visibility and control over budgets, estimates, estimate to complete, resource costs, billing, work in progress, and of course, profit margins. 4, growth management, plan and manage service growth, resourcing, and skill management needs as the business grows. And finally, 5, revenue and financial management, managing billing contracts, client billing, invoicing, and revenue recognition processes. Be able to model any contract that you're transacting on as you deliver your services. Our platform approach means we have ability to model unique service business workflows for delivery, service delivery, billing, and revenue recognition. It evolves with your services business and is able to be scaled and agile. 100% time collection with automatic harvesting and 0 revenue leakages. Connect time to outcomes and maximize your service profit potential. Overall, achieve a lower total cost of ownership and certainly quicker ROIs within your business. Now for our customer success story. NSC Global is one of our global clients here at Replicon. A little bit of background on them. They're a services company in the IT sector. They employ over 6,500 field engineers globally. At the time when we engaged with them, they had a goal to improve end-to-end service delivery, resource management, billing, and revenue recognition. Pretty common across most service-based businesses. Their situation was manual, ad hoc processes managing operations, leading to a lack of visibility into resource utilization, let alone work in progress, and of course it had an impact on the bottom line. Their problem, putting it between the crosshairs, was manual intervention required because of lack of single source of truth, inaccurate data due to manual data messaging processes without any auditability or traceability, and of course overall this was summing up to causing cash flow problems due to inaccurate billing. So what was the outcome? As Replicon stepped in and deployed, the outcomes were as follows. We optimized several areas of their business because they finally had granular detail and a holistic view in one source of truth. Proactive management of business operations workflow by having real-time actionable data, created a cultural change starting from the top for measuring, iterating on the right things and at the right time for the right results. And of course, we're a perfect fit to that because we are a single system to manage granular data at every step of their process, allowing them apples to apples measurements across their business globally, and the ability to continuously tweak, measure, and optimize, allow them to transform their business to where it is today. So with that, I'll now hand off to Pawan to showcase our advanced time intelligence platform for professional service companies. I'll just change over to Pawan.
Thanks, Gary. So I'm going to start with bringing up my screen here and just if I can get a confirmation that you're able to see the dashboards.
Yes, immediately.
Wonderful. So again, thanks, Gary, and hello, everyone. My name is Pavan Manjotra, and I will be walking us through the actual product overview today. And really what I want to ensure the team was aware of today is how Replicon can truly bust the profitability myth. So with Replicon's time intelligence platform, which Gary was just speaking about, we do provide true visibility into time as a strategic business asset. We enable better visibility into all time metrics, and then in doing so, can provide a clear, distinct picture around profitability. So this can include things such as billable engagements, perhaps with some of your external clientele. This could also take into account non-billable time as well. And this is where in a large number of organizations, they really tend to overlook and really around internal businesses as usual aspects like admin duties, meetings, bench time, as an example. And so the Replicon platform can actually do this by helping harvest time information in a number of different flavors. We have the Replicon mobile app that helps capture time anywhere, anytime, any place through structured data. Also by leveraging to help import data using our open web services, using APIs, which of course is exposed to our customers. So we will cover a lot on today's session over here. We'll get started with a persona-based demonstration. We will look at the different roles within an organization, typically looking at on a top level, you're having leadership, looking at reports, looking at dashboards, looking at data, looking at the overall health of your organization without getting into those details, really. And then looking at project managers, looking at their own projects, looking at the overall health of their projects, looking at how data then flows into a billing system where billing managers or the finance team would essentially be extracting time data, cost data, billing data. So essentially, we'll start off with looking at the user Anna Dell that I'm now impersonating. Anna is one of the members from the leadership team, and Anna is really interested in looking at the overall health of the projects as such. On the dashboard view within Replicon, as you're seeing, we can present graphical representation of some of the data in the form of these beautiful charts. And as you can see over here, you can have multiple charts set up. You can have your project set up by cost. You can be looking at profits by projects. You can be seeing how you're trending with your annual profitability across projects. As you hover your mouse on those charts, you can actually see those numbers right there. You can, of course, do a whole bunch of charts, including your client billables, your localization, utilization, profits by clients, and, of course, your resources and the hours that they're putting in with regards to utilization. So on these charts, let's say I'm looking at my annual project profitability. If I were to go ahead and just hover my mouse, I can see my customer billing system is really the most profitable project, while I've got something going down in negative over here, which is probably an evaluation of billing system. So I can quickly see in a snapshot on how this is trending across all of my projects. When I click on a particular item over here within the chart is when I'm exposed to more details within that particular chart that I'm looking at. So this is the data that I can, of course, export out as a table. I can throw in additional filters if I like on top over here. And with the chart itself, if I need to sort of drill into the customer billing system, I click on it. It actually further takes me into seeing more details with regards to the time that users or employees within the organization have been putting in on those specific projects, right? So creating charts, again, is as simple as you go to clicking on add a new chart. You can then go ahead and select based on the templates. Let's say you're looking at something on a project costing and billing level, in which you probably want to look at maybe clients or maybe projects or maybe even users for that matter. Corresponding to this selection, you can then look at your columns on what you're looking at with regards to projects. You're looking at maybe users on those projects. And with these combination, what are you looking at? Are you looking at your costs? Are you looking at profits, billable, expenses, and hours, right? So let's say you're looking at just total hours put in by users over projects, just as an example, which you already have over here. But the way we would put this together is with the selection over here, you can then filter down to looking at data specifically pertaining either to projects that are pertaining to a certain top 5 clients that I've got. I can click on apply right there. It filters this down. I've got my chart ready over here. We've got options to look at this in the form of a bar chart, in the form of a grouped bar, in the form of a pie, or in the form of a line chart. And then, of course, further settings that you can sort of tweak the charts to look and feel, and then, of course, go ahead and save it. So essentially, the leadership team does not want to get into those details of those actual numbers, does want to look at how things are trending within the organization, across your clients, across your projects, what's the overall health of the organization. And this view really would help the leadership team members or the senior folks within the organizations to have an overview of how you're trending. Now, with this data being captured, let's take a step back to see how this is even coming into the system. So it's essentially those project managers that would actually be running those projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch into a project managers view over here, which is under the project management tab. This would, of course, be a different user. In this case, for the sake of demonstration and to keep it simple, I have made the user Anna itself as the dashboard user along with the project manager permissions. So in organizations, these could be different people, right? You've got folks looking at reports, and then you've got different folks managing projects, different folks managing resources, and so on. Now, within my projects view, what I can get to see right off is all of my projects, along with the different statuses they are, which clients they belong to, who the project managers are, a start and end date, and of course, I have visibility on the actual hours, actual costs, and actual billing in real time across all of my projects. Now, if there's extra level of detail that I like to see on this view itself, I can have it turned on by simply going in over here. I can bring in my estimates. If I've defined estimated hours against my projects, I can bring in estimate costs. I can, of course, bring in my estimated billing values. And of course, if I'm looking at revenue details, I can go ahead and bring that in. So setting the table setting would essentially go ahead and show me that quick comparison of my actuals versus my estimates. So in this case, I've got 42 hours as actual, whereas I've estimated 92 hours on my project called Automated Reporting and Dashboards. Now, taking this further, a project manager would really like to see what's happening within that project. So when I click on a particular project, we'll just pick up dashboarding. Now, within my dashboarding project, the first thing that I see, of course, is the summary view, which, of course, you can change from a daily view, looking at it on a more granular level, moving up to a weekly view, and then probably a monthly or even a quarterly view. What you really get to see over here is a quick comparison again between your actuals and your estimates in terms of hours. You can toggle this between actuals and estimates in terms of cost, and of course with regards to billing. So that's the first view that you've got. Just by looking at this, a project manager can tell how much they've estimated versus what their actuals are and how they're trending or what the overall health of their project is. So if there is any course corrections that needs to be made, this view would really help with quickly identifying those and making those changes. Now, the project as such is again a breakdown of several tasks. So the work breakdown structure as such is that of a whole bunch of tasks where different resources can be assigned to different tasks. You can have those defined start and end dates against each of these tasks. You can also have attributes defined on a level where you can be looking at estimates with regards to cost and hours, even on a task level. So that's the level that we can actually drill down into. Now, the project as such is a collection of these tasks along with a whole bunch of team members working on those projects. You may have a lot of attributes assigned to these projects. You may have your project master as such set up in probably an ERP system or an external project management system within the organization. You're looking at data flowing into Replicon. That is simply possible with the help of leveraging the web services using APIs that I spoke about at the beginning of this session. So using that, we can simply mirror all the projects that you've got in your actual project management system and have that visible within Replicon, where you can go ahead and take a look at it. Now, you need to add additional attributes to a project. That is, of course, possible. You've got projects set up with name. You're associating them with a code. You've got a start and end date on projects. You would have projects assigned to clients. In some cases, there could be certain projects that probably have shared are being shared perhaps across different clients. That is also possible where, of course, I've got just as a communication for this project, but let's say this project was shared between multiple clients. I can actually go ahead and do that over here. that's the third one there. And then, of course, the way that the allocation as such on which client needs to be billed at what percentage on the work being completed on this particular project. So that's, of course, possible. So if this is not applicable, we can take that off right there. You can have projects associated with the client representative, with the project manager, of course, defining your cost, billing type, and your time and expense. So you may have projects that are billable and non-billable. So this is the key, right? Where you're looking at really capturing time that's billable, which is of course going to be extracted for billing purposes, and additionally capture that non-billable hours to see where the time that's not being captured as of yet is visible through this section over here. Of course, projects can be set up against an invoice type. We've got multi-currency support. We're a global organization. We support all of these multi values essentially with regards to being the dollar value amounts, whether the project itself is going to be invoiced in USD, but you might have your team members working from a different geographical location. So that is not a problem over here within Replicon. You can then have your contract values defined on a project level. You can have revenue type with regards to the different contracts that Gary spoke about some time back. And we will take a look at how these are even set up in the first place. But essentially, these are attributes, these are properties for the project that we can help set up. In addition to all of this, again, you've got your estimated hours, estimated costs, estimated expenses set up on a project level. And finally, going down to even being able to attach documents. So let's say there is an SOW that you need to have attached to this project. The project manager needs to have visibility to it. They don't need to go into another screen. They can click on the link right there and actually load the SOW right from within the same section over here. So that's with the project piece on the project attributes. Now, moving in further, of course, we've got team members. Team members can be assigned different billing rates. If there's a certain user that's playing multiple roles within this project, we can have multiple billing rates assigned to those users. And these are then pulled up for billing purposes, where I can see how much of time Richard put in on a project rate versus how much of time he put in on a senior consultant billing rate. All of that is possible again. Then, of course, we've got expenses, billing rate, and revenue. So I'll perhaps pull up another project over here to talk a little bit about, let's just say I've got a project called App Redesign, and I can actually see contracts. So this is where I can actually go ahead and have my contracts attributes set up within the project level itself. You can have multiple different types of contracts pertaining to the projects. You could have the time and material with hourly, defining an hourly rate. You can have an expenses markup, which you can define over here. You may have milestone-based billing, where you can actually go ahead and define how much of amount needs to be invoiced at which stage of this project, right? So let's say every 30 days, we're going to be invoicing at an X amount of dollar value. So that can be defined over here. You can also add additional contract clauses just by clicking on the plus over here. And then these are all the attributes. So these are really set up within the admin section of the Replicon instance. And those kind of flow down into the project attributes, which can then be set up against those different projects. Now, from a project standpoint, we can also look at the revenue section within the project, where I can go ahead and define a POC, or a percentage of completion value, where I know at what stage we're going to be starting to sort of project completion based on whether I'm looking at the project cost against actuals and estimates, or I'm looking at those project hours, and I can, of course, add those additional clauses over here. Now, all of these are really coming to play when I can actually take you into the admin section and show you. So we'll just take a step over here into the admin section right there. And here's where I can actually look at how we're setting up those billing processes, right? So if I want to go ahead and set up my projects and I've got those billing processes defined over here, we can have the different workflows essentially with regards to time coming into the system, when it gets approved, what's the workflow it will follow, is there going to be like a single level, a multi-level, all of that is possible. So setting up the billing process as such would then come down to being, it could be a simple approval where billing data goes through a single level of approval. This is again time captured over the projects coming in for billing purposes. You can have like a a two-stage approval process. So defining that would essentially change how the data is going to be flowing within Replicon, where something is open, it's submitted. If it was rejected, it goes back in here. If it's approved, it goes to the next stage. And then, of course, moving into your finalized state where we can pull this out for billing purposes. So multiple billing processes can be defined within the system, in addition to, of course, uploading those custom workflows if you have them. So that's with regards to the projects within Replicon. Now, as a client manager who's managing those projects, again, you've got visibility by going to the Clients tab. You've got a view on all of your clients, and against those clients, you can see each of those projects with regards to your hours, cost, and billing happening on a client level. Right? So it's the same thing that we just spoken about. You drill into a particular client, you can see summarized view with regards to hours, cost, and billing happening again on a client level. And the client data is nothing but all the time coming in across all the projects running for this client, which is essentially the projects that we've got over here. Projects, again, can have those different attributes. You can have projects that are active. You can monitor projects that are archived, completed, currently in progress, and of course, even those future projects that are tentative and are in the pipeline. So that's with regards to the contracts and the revenue recognition parts and the billing processes that can be defined within the project level itself. Now, moving into the next level with regards to billing. And before I talk about billing, we will also look at one of the key important requirements within an organization pertaining to managing their resources. Now, resource management is, of course, key, where you need to have visibility on where your users are basically engaged, which projects they're working on, which user you can use for any new projects. So you can have organizations where you've got project managers separately and you've got resource managers separately. They could be the same people within the organization. In Replicon, of course, all of this is controlled based on the different roles and permissions that we assign to users. So if it's a single user, we can assign them permissions to have access to both. But if it's a different resource manager, they would only have access to the resourcing section, which essentially I'm going to show you over here. So as you can see, Anna didn't have access to resource management, just projects. But if I go in over here as perhaps one of the other project managers who's also got access to, so that's Anna right there. And we've got resource management over here, right? So in resource management, what I can do is, of course, the first thing that I get to see on top is the visibility of all of my resources and their engagements across the different projects. Now, expanding this would essentially show me which projects the user is allocated to and how many hours between what time periods. Now, the time is again visible in different formats, where you can be looking at a percentage of scheduled hours and a percentage value like this, or you could simply be looking at those actual hours that a user is allocated against something. And then, of course, with the time off module, the leave management system that we've got in place, if a user is away, is on a time off or is away for a specific period of time, there is visibility on that as well. So you're not allocating a user who perhaps on the back end has actually booked a time off and you've gone ahead and allocated them against this particular project over here. So that's the view that a resource manager gets to see. Of course, you can go ahead and add users to projects by clicking on Add a Project. Once they're added to the projects, you want to go ahead and allocate them against a particular project. You would click on that particular cell. You've got a particular date range that you can pick and choose from. And then against that particular date range, you get to choose your allocation. So the resource manager knows that I need this resource to work on this particular project based on an allocation set with regards to hours per day. Maybe I need this resource to spend a minimum of 2 hours per day. It could be a total number of hours where I can go into total hours and I can say I need a resource for X number of days or X number of months for X number of hours in total. Or you could just be looking at a percentage value. And once you've done that, of course, this would then go ahead and help you allocate that user's time across the time frame, looking at those numbers over here, which again, depending if you're setting it up as hours, you can still get to see it in terms of a percentage value or in terms of actual hours as such, and just hovering your mouse will give you visibility on the availability of your users. Now, we do have the option to also set up placeholders within Replicon, where you can actually go in over here and without visibility on actual resources, I know that I've got projects and I know that I will need certain roles as team members on this particular project. Now the view, again, you could be looking at a daily view, you could be looking at a weekly view or a monthly view. Let's just say on a monthly view, there is a requirement of an RFP expert against a particular project, maybe beginning from a particular month to probably, let's just say October over here. I need this resource to work 200 hours. That's the kind of commitment that we made for this particular engagement. I go ahead and have my allocation set over here like this. When it comes down to actually bringing in a resource for this particular project, I can go ahead and do that very simply just by clicking on the placeholder itself. Here is where I can actually swap this placeholder against an actual resource. Again, the Replicon's intelligent platform actually shows me the most available match right on top, going down in a descending order, to the least available match down at the bottom. Now, if I need to bring in a resource, and as a resource manager, if I need someone with an RFP expert skill set pertaining to a certain role, it's hard to actually just look at resources and determine which one that would be. So that's why we would essentially use the option to filter users against skills. So I can have different skill sets assigned to different users. Let's just say I want to pick up someone with the skill set for CRM architecture. I go ahead and select that particular skill set. Automatically, I have visibility that Tammy and Pavan are the two resources that I can bring in on this particular project with this particular skill set. And all I would do is simply go ahead and select that user's name. I can then replace placeholder with that particular user in over here. And I've gone ahead and swapped that actual placeholder with an actual resource on this particular project. So if I were to go into this particular project, I will automatically see that we now have the new user assigned to work on this project with that particular allocation across the period that we had predefined within the system over here. So that's with the resourcing bit. Now, we've got the resources set up on projects. The users are assigned to those projects which we've set up with different tasks, with different attributes. Time is being captured. Once this time flows into the system, we would then extract it for billing purposes. And we will then go into the system as a billing manager. So if I go into the persona-based view for a billing manager within Replicon over here, which I'm going to do right there. So when I go in as a billing manager, I have visibility across the billing data that's already available for me, right? And all of these systems the data is essentially flowing through seamlessly within Replicon through the different phases. You don't have to manually trigger or push anything anywhere out. Users will have real-time visibility. So let's just say on my summary, on my billing summary screen itself, if I want to go ahead and probably take a look at a view where I want to see all of my clients. I want to see what's not invoiced, what's currently in a draft status, what has been issued. I have visibility on that as a billing manager under my billing summary. And again, I can throw in some dates to look at data specific to a particular date range. So it could be just for this month, for last month, for a specific month, or of course, just by clicking in over here, I want to see if there is something available for billing. Let's say for this financial year, starting the 1st of Jan 2018. I can see I've got Advantage Technologies with so many hours that were not billed. And of course, this was time and material dollar value amounts, and of course, with my expenses. Now, on this view, if I want to add any extra level of detail, that is again possible where I can go ahead and click on the icon over here. I want to bring in a client code. I want to see a client manager. I want to see maybe hours that were paid, any other attributes, hours as such. I can go ahead and set my table view to actually go ahead and bring in those values and actually see those numbers right up front. Now, when we move into the invoicing of this data is essentially when I can go into invoice, for which we can actually look at the billing summary section itself. Again, this view gives me visibility where I can go ahead and select a specific date range for a specific client. So let's say I just want to look at Advantage Technologies. I've got that set up. I refresh my data over here. I only see Advantage Technologies, the projects running for Advantage Technologies, and what I have available to bill for this particular client. Again, if I want to specifically drill this down into a particular project, I've got the option to do that using these filters over here. Now, moving into the actual billing workbench. In the workbench, what I can do with billing is essentially I've got visibility on what's available for billing. So let's just say we take off these filters over here, and this is the data that you're looking at, but you want to specifically look at, so you've got visibility across all of your clients and all of the projects pertaining to those clients that are now up for billing. I can go ahead and filter this against a specific date range. I can filter this against a specific client. And as mentioned, again, within a specific client for a specific project. Once I've got data selected, I could hit on refresh data. With this view again, I've got the client, I've got the project, any tasks within those projects, and of course the dollar value amounts. Now, if I want to add a little more level of detail, I can actually go in over here. I want to be looking at my users. I want to see what date time was captured against this, at what billing rate, what was the billing amount. I can actually go and turn all of that on, set my table view like this. And here's where I can actually go ahead and have this data represented right up front. Now, what's available to bill can then be pushed into my billing process. Billing process, again, as Gary had mentioned, there are different billing processes that you can define within the system. Again, looking at my responsibilities, if as a billing manager, I was part of the billing process. We did look at those different processes in the admin section. You can have like a single level, you can have a multi-level, you can have those complex billing processes defined. That's essentially tying down over here, where again, you've got your date ranges selected, your clients, your projects, what date it was created, and then of course, your responsibility. So are you looking at things that need to be actioned by yourself? What is the current status? And then of course, if you were to click on the status itself, it actually shows you that there was something that was open. It was then submitted for approval. Were you part of the approval process? Have you approved it? If you approve it, what happens? If you reject it, what happens? So you've got visibility on the approval process itself within the system, and it's clearly defined against your responsibilities over here. Now, these entries can, of course, then be downloaded as CSV files if you want to download them and push them into your actual finance system or your accounting system or your billing system. And of course, refreshing data would simply refresh the data based on the filters that you put in over here. Now, while you've got this data and you want to push out an invoice, is when you would actually go into the invoicing section within Replicon. Now, invoicing again is pretty, it's right within the invoicing section over here. I've got visibility across all of the invoices right up front that I've already gone ahead and pulled out from the system along with dollar value amounts. I can see what's a total amount with regards to invoicing. I can see what's currently in a draft status. I can see dollar value amounts with invoices that have been issued. I can see invoices that are currently overdue, that have been paid, and of course, if any invoices that were marked as void. Creating an invoice, again, as simple as you go into adding an invoice right there. You would go ahead and put in an invoice number, which again flows into your billing system. You would then choose the client that you're looking to invoice. So let's say we're looking at invoicing Advantage Technologies as the client. Automatically, based on attributes defined for this client, I have my billing address populated over here. I can give in a description. I can go ahead and choose when we're looking to issue this invoice. So maybe we're looking to issue this by the end of the month, but we're just putting up a draft as of now. You can define your payment terms with regards to how many days it's then going to kick in for being overdue or due as such. Put in a purchase order number. Again, the projects may be set up in a different currency. Your invoicing could be in a different currency, and that's again clearly a key that we've got with the support with multi-currency within Replicon's time intelligence platform. Now, once you've got all of this selected, is when you would actually bring in the time that needs to be invoiced to your client. So you go ahead and click on the timeline items right there. You could pick and choose a date range. So I don't have anything for the month of May, but let's just say I pick up a larger date range. I can actually see all the projects, all the users with regards to the billing rates, the unit, the rates, and the amount that were put in. Maybe I want to particularly bill a specific project. I can actually go ahead and just bring that in as well. I can filter the data just down to that one particular project where I'm seeing only time for that project. Within this, if I need to probably specifically bill only certain line items, I have the option to do that. Again, only not invoiced data is shown, so there's no duplication. You're not accidentally pulling in data that was already invoiced. It's clearly unique data that's coming in first time for invoicing. Go ahead and add those line items into your invoice right there. We have given the flexibility to the billing team members or the billing managers over here to go ahead and make any changes to the numeric values if there's a need to do so. If something needs to be rounded off to a certain value with regards to your ask, with regards to your billing, that's possible just by clicking in. You can actually go ahead and update those values right there. Maybe if there was an update to the, maybe there was a revision to the billing prices for this customer that needs to be updated. That can be done over here. If there's another unique line item that you like to throw into the system, maybe something to do with a certain discount or maybe a certain, so let's just say just a service charge maybe. So you could just go ahead and put that in. Maybe there was a discount on this, so you're looking at maybe a $500 discount value over there. So 22,900 with the minus value would give you an updated of 22,400 right there. So you can go ahead and add those line items there. Again, the option to put in your notes either for the customer or internal notes that are not visible to the client. And essentially, if you want to go ahead and see what this invoice would then look like, is when you can simply click on preview to actually have a copy of the final invoice itself. So this is where we would give your logo along with your billing address, your client and their billing address, your invoice number along with the date of issue and the payment due date, and then your actual line items with regards to the projects that were being billed, the users, the billing rates, how much quantity, what was the unit rate, and then the total amount, along with any additional line items. And then, of course, these are all things that you can set up based on your payment instructions that you like to have set up within the system and what have you. So that's with regards to the invoice. Now, once the invoice is issued, of course, the draft status will then change to an invoice being issued, which is clearly indicated over here. You can come back into this invoice at a later time. So let's say I'm looking at the invoice number 5674 from my invoices section. I've got all of my invoices over here. I've got 5674 right there. This is in an issued status. Once I receive payment against this invoice, I can actually go ahead and click on it and then go ahead and add payment. One other thing with regards to our system being open to other systems, the way we can interact with your existing systems is again clearly the fact where I can show you over here if this needs to move into an actual billing system, and there are certain systems that we actually do have an out-of-box integration with. All you would simply do is go ahead and select that particular data and go ahead and sync your invoices out. Right? Just with a click of a button, this data can then be sent out into your billing system. And again, if you're looking at those flat file transfers, those are clearly available again in the form of reports that you can actually download and import into your system. API integration, of course, is available on the back end where we can have systems talking to one another seamlessly without too much of manual intervention. So that's again something that's visible upfront. So that's with regards to the billing pieces, and essentially, as everyone has seen, the Replicon's time intelligence platform really allows your organization to have a single source of truth across all time and service metrics, breaking that profitability myth. So we enable collaborative workflow across multiple business units and teams within your organization, really all the way from planning to execution, delivery, analysis, the collaboration with finance for billing. We really provide those end-to-end workflows and project planning through resource management to help build those labor forecast plans. So really, it's to provide true visibility into project burn-down statuses, intelligent time harvesting as well, while ensuring data quality and ensuring intelligent approval routings, streamlining workflows into your billing and accounting system by, of course, leveraging those web services. So with that, I've concluded what I wanted to show to the audience today. So thank you, everyone. I will be now passing this back to Gary for closing comments. So Gary, it's over to you.
Thanks, Pawan, for the great showcase demo. Solid session. So just to summarize what we've seen from Pawan, reflecting that back to some of our clients. And just before we open up to questions, let's take a quick look at our professional service automation benefits and how we have helped other service-based businesses like yours. We have decreased revenue leakages by up to 10% on average, 5 to 10% increase in resource utilization, up to 90% decrease in administration overheads and faster billing, also increased employment engagement, as you would have seen through the demonstration, reduced non-compliance risk to global accounting standards, also as shown by Pawan today. So with that said, we'll just move to, so I'd like to move it to a thank you to everyone for attending here today. We would love to have a chat with you about the profitability myth that your service businesses may be facing. If you wish to, please reach out to us for any questions you have beyond the questions that we've had submitted here this afternoon, or if you would like a meeting with us, please email us on sales@replicon.com, as you can see there on screen, again, sales@replicon.com. And with that, I'd like to thank you all attending here this afternoon. Thank you, Pawan, for your fantastic showcase session. And that concludes today's webinar from Replicon on breaking the professional services profitability myth. Good day to all.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.